A mysterious tomb has just been discovered deep beneath the ancient rock city of Petra. Inside, archaeologists report finding prophecies written in blood, left more than 2,000 years ago by the last priests of the Nabataean Empire. They carry a grim warning: every civilization that builds its prosperity on the desert and trade will, in the end. Now, this discovery is shaking not only the world of archaeology, but also modern fears. Is the past sending a message to nations that still rely on the desert's resources to survive? Could this blood-written prophecy have been meant not only for the Nabataeans, but as a warning to us today? Nestled between the desert cliffs of what is now Edom in Jordan, Petra was once the jewel of the ancient world. Around the 4th century BC, a group of Arab nomads, known as the Nabataeans, settled in the fiery red canyons of Wadi Musa. They started as traveling merchants, guiding caravans loaded with spices, frankincense, and seasonings across harsh, arid regions. But over a few centuries, they transformed a barren valley into a splendid capital carved directly into sandstone, the city of Petra, a name meaning rock in Greek. Petra was unlike any contemporary city. Instead of building walls from bricks or stone blocks, the Nabataeans hollowed out an entire metropolis into the mountains. Massive sandstone facades were carved into tombs dozens of meters high, temples, theaters, and complex infrastructure. The most iconic symbol is Al-Khazne, the treasury, a gigantic structure with a facade over 40 meters tall, featuring intricate Corinthian columns, sculpted gods, and Greco-Roman patterns, yet concealing inner worship spaces marked by desert Arab influences. Petra's wealth stemmed from a rare strategic advantage control over the spice trade network. The world back then craved incense, frankincense, spices, and gems. The Nabataeans held the routes crossing Arabia, linking Yemen, Oman, through the Hijaz to Damascus and Gaza. Every caravan had to pay fees, exchange goods, and receive their protection. In an era when spices were worth as much as gold, Petra became the golden crossroads of East and West. Not only skilled in trade, the Nabataeans mastered techniques for surviving drought. They built sophisticated channels and reservoirs, channeling every precious drop of rain from mountain slopes into underground cisterns. Water was distributed to residents, merchants, and temples alike, turning Petra into a thriving oasis amid the desert. Nabataean culture was a unique blend. They worshipped ancient Arab gods like Dushara, Lord of the Rock, and the goddess Al-Uzza, but also absorbed Greek, Egyptian, and Eastern influences. Massive tombs symbolized clan power and faith in divine protection. Animal blood sacrifices took place on altars, with blood flowing through channels into the rock as offerings to the gods, a detail later tied by locals to legends of blood prophecies. In its golden age, Petra was so wealthy it stirred envy in neighboring empires. In 312 BC, Antigonus, a general of Alexander the Great, tried to attack but failed against the Nabataeans' cunning, who knew the desert terrain and defended the city with surprise tactics. By the 1st century BC, under Kings Aretas III and IV, Petra reached its peak: thriving trade, dazzling architecture, its own currency, and a Greco-Roman Arab cultural fusion. Yet behind the prosperity, fears of a fragile empire reliant on the desert simmered. They knew the desert could betray at any moment, trade routes shifting, harsher climates, religious wars sweeping through. These concerns etched into Nabataean beliefs, a religion both revering protective gods and filled with curses warning tomb desecrators. By the early 2nd century AD, the spice routes that sustained the Nabataeans began to shift. The Roman Empire, expanding into Syria and Egypt, controlled much of the trade via the Mediterranean. Desert caravan paths grew less safe and efficient compared to the sea routes the Romans were developing vigorously. In 106 AD, Emperor Trajan officially annexed Nabatea into the Roman Empire, turning it into the province of Arabia Petraea. This wasn't a bloody massacre, but a strategic takeover Rome knew it didn't need to destroy Petra, just sever its trade monopoly. For the Nabataeans, though, it was the first crack in their pride. The rock city endured, but now under another empire's shadow, gradually losing political and economic power. The decline didn't happen overnight, but like sand slowly filling in as spice routes weakened. Petra's income plummeted, grand structures stopped being built, and vast tombs gave way to more modest forms. Desertification grew harsher. Modern studies based on sediment cores and pollen analysis show an unusual drought period from the 2nd-3rd centuries. Reducing rainfall, something even the sophisticated Nabataean water channels struggled to handle. These changes mirrored in Nabataean beliefs, already accustomed to animal blood sacrifices on altars to seek protection from gods Dushara and Al-Uzza. Darker tales emerged. Ethnographers recorded legends that the last priests, before the empire's total collapse, performed a desperate ritual using their own blood to write prophecies, warning future generations. It's said those red inscriptions were etched deep into rock or smeared on slabs in a secret underground chamber. Speaking of an inescapable cycle, he who lives by the desert will die by the desert. He who lives by trade will die by trade. Legend holds this wasn't just a vague prophecy, but a curse for anyone daring to disturb the priests' graves. They believed Dushara would unleash disasters on violators' plagues, wars, trade collapses, anything disrupting the desert's sacred order. It's easy to see why these stories took root. Nabataea's fall coincided with broader chaos, Rome weakening in the east, sea routes replacing caravans, once wealthy desert trade cities like Palmyra vanishing too, to locals. This must have seemed like the prophecy fulfilling itself. In subsequent centuries, Petra faded into oblivion. Major earthquakes in 363 and 551 AD destroyed many structures. As Islam rose on the Arabian Peninsula, Petra was already a shadow of the past. Remaining inhabitants abandoned the city. Some tombs were repurposed as homes or churches, but most fell silent. Memories of the blood prophecy became oral tales among Bedouin communities around Wadi Musa. Petra's deepest parts still hid a priest's tomb holding blood-written warnings of destruction. It went by many names, but most commonly Beit al-Nabi al-Dam, House of the Blood Prophet. Medieval Arab missionaries and merchants occasionally mentioned Petra as a cursed ghost city of the gods. Some 12th–13th century Islamic manuscripts noted it as home to mountain worshippers who vanished for their arrogance. Though not directly referencing blood prophecies, these lines nurtured myths of supernatural punishment. When the West rediscovered Petra in the early 19th century, explorer Johann Ludwig Burckhardt heard from Bedouins tales of a blood-cursed tomb. He recorded them, but dismissed them as unverifiable folklore. Still, those rumors planted seeds for curiosity among later scholars and adventurers. When Johann Ludwig Burckhardt disguised himself as a Muslim and quietly entered Petra in 1812, he didn't just rediscover a lost city, he sparked a thirst for exploration lasting over 2 centuries. Early European expeditions were captivated by Petra's stunning architecture, tombs carved into cliffs, vast plazas hidden in gorges, Corinthian columns blending Greco-Roman style with Arab mythology. Yet most of what they saw was surface level. Petra quickly proved more complex. Behind the magnificent facades lay a network of underground chambers and tunnels untouched, swallowed by sand and time. For nearly a century, archaeology proceeded slowly and descriptively rather than exploratively. Researchers hand-drew maps, documented Nabataean inscriptions, collected pottery, and excavated a few major temples and rock tombs. But the site spanned hundreds of hectares, buried by flash floods and desert sand, making searches for secret spaces nearly impossible. Bedouins living around Wadi Musa still spoke of tunnels linking temples, deep chambers unseen by outsiders. But academia then had no way to verify. The turning point came late in the 20th century. In 1998, Brown University, USA launched the Petra Mapping Project, first using GIS and satellite imagery to survey the entire site. Digitized data revealed clearly beneath the sand lay a massive infrastructure, water channels, reservoirs, building foundations, and buried corridors. This made hypotheses about unexcavated underground spaces more convincing than ever. Into the early 21st century, remote sensing technology advanced rapidly. Archaeologist and satellite imagery expert Sarah Parkak and her team applied LiDAR to scan through sand and rock. In 2016, they announced discovering a large hidden structure deep near the central plaza, right by Al-Khazne. This was a major boost if a massive building could hide in an area tourists pass daily. Deeper tombs were entirely possible. Meanwhile, ground-penetrating radar GPR was deployed widely, allowing views of structures several meters to dozens deep without digging. Internal reports from the Jordan Department of Antiquities noted many stratigraphic anomalies under the main plaza and cliff signals, possibly of voids or man-made features. However, scientific progress didn't mean free excavation. As a UNESCO World Heritage Site, any deep intrusion was controlled to prevent collapses or damage to ancient rock. Jordan's government saw Petra as a national identity symbol. Any discovery involving tombs and religious rituals was highly sensitive. Thus, much GPR data remained unpublished. This sparked speculation that major finds were being withheld. Academia also warned GPR only shows voids, not confirming tombs. Carbon-14 dating in desert conditions could err by centuries due to heat, dryness, and contamination. Despite barriers, some results rekindled old legends. Small probe excavations revealed mass graves with sacrificial animal bones and blood channels, evidence that Nabataean blood rituals existed at Petra's core. Many ancient stelae bore sacred warnings against tomb violators, giving the blood prophecy myth-archaeological grounding. New stratigraphic maps also unveiled an unusually large chamber right under the plaza before Kazne, with reinforced stone walls and architecture differing from known tombs. The climax came in autumn 2024, when academic media buzzed about a team from the Jordan Department of Antiquities and the University of St. Andrews identifying a mass burial chamber under Kazne. According to leaked reports, it held at least 12 skeletons, blood ritual artifacts, and undeciphered Nabataean inscriptions, though no official scientific publication yet. This was seen as the closest clue to the House of the Blood Prophet in over 2 centuries of searching. Today, science has touched the edge of the secret, but the door remains shut due to politics, religion, and heritage preservation. Petra seems decoded, but deep under its red rock, it keeps a story that could change how the world understands the collapse of desert civilizations. Autumn 2024 saw Petra back in the archaeological spotlight as news of a secret excavation spread through international academic conferences, after years of ground-penetrating radar GPR surveys and data from the Petra Mapping Project. A joint team from the Jordan Department of Antiquities and the University of St. Andrews gained access to the area right under the plaza before Al-Kazne Petra's most famous icon. This zone had shown unusual stratigraphic signals, a large void, reinforced stone walls, and traces suggesting it wasn't a natural cave. According to leaked sources, preparations took months. The team had to convince Jordan's government, UNESCO, and heritage groups that the probe would be safe and non-destructive to ancient rock. Minimally invasive drilling tech was used to create small paths for cameras and survey robots, avoiding direct digging. This caution stemmed from 2 fears. 1. Risking collapse of Kazne, which draws millions of tourists yearly. 2. Religious sensitivities in touching ancient graves. When the first robot descended, transmitted images showed a mass burial chamber about several dozen square meters, with a carefully reinforced stone-vaulted ceiling. On the walls, deep carvings and rows of stone niches. Inside were at least 12 neatly placed human skeletons, many with simple grave goods. Some remains wore rotted robes, still showing dark red stains. Low stone altars had channels draining liquids to the floor, a detail instantly linking researchers to Nabataean blood rituals. The most controversial were Nabataean inscriptions running along one wall. Many characters were faded, but some strokes retained a distinct dark red hue, unlike the surrounding rock. Initial analysis indicated a mix of iron oxide and organic matter, possibly blood blended with minerals. The symbols weren't fully decoded, but experts read a few words suggesting desert, trade, doom, and trespasser. If confirmed, this would be the first Nabataean text with clear prophetic tones rather than just tomb-protecting curses. Additionally, the team recovered ritual artifacts, ceramic bowls with dried blood traces, small bronze sacrificial knives, statues of Dushara and Al-Uzza with red marks smeared on foreheads. Some wood and fabric fragments remained intact, promising more accurate Dug 14C dating. These details made the last priest's tomb hypothesis compelling. Perhaps this was where Nabataean clerics self-sacrificed to leave a warning before their empire's fall. Yet from discovery to scientific publication lies a path full of hurdles. Jordan's government temporarily halted expansion and restricted image releases, citing heritage protection and avoiding religious agitation. Some international archaeologists expressed frustration, arguing the find's historical value demands broad disclosure. Conversely, many regional scholars supported caution, stressing Petra isn't just archaeology, but a spiritual and national identity symbol for Jordan. Leaked info exploded in media. Some international papers described it as first evidence for the blood prophecy. Meanwhile, many scientists called for calm since the text isn't fully decoded, and the red mixture needs testing to confirm human blood. Debates center on whether this is ritualistic prophecy or a true message foretelling the doom of desert and trade-based civilizations. Though questions remain, the 2024 discovery has thrust a millennia-old legend into the global archaeological spotlight. A city thought fossilized by history suddenly speaks in ancient blood language. And in that moment, Petra is no longer just a tourist relic. It becomes a haunting reminder that the past may be warning the present. Right after news of the hidden tomb under Al-Kazne leaked in late 2024, Petra transformed from a quiet tourist spot into a global epicenter of upheaval. Blurry robot camera photos showing red-stained stone altars and ancient inscriptions quickly surfaced on archaeology forums and social media, then ballooned in international media into sensational stories, blood prophecy in Petra warning, of doom for desert civilizations. The first reactions came from international academia, many archaeologists from Europe and America, who followed Petra via the Petra Mapping Project, demanded full data release radar images, samples, appraisal reports. They argued this could be the most significant Nabataean cultural find in decades, shedding light on little-known religious rituals. However, the Jordan Department of Antiquities opted for silence, issuing a brief statement that more analysis time was needed to ensure respect for heritage and local beliefs. This hesitation only fueled speculation further. Islamic clerics and local communities around Petra voiced concerns. To them, Petra isn't just an archaeological site, but sacred land tied to ancestral memories. Many feared disturbing ancient graves, especially those thought to be priests, could bring ill omens. Some tribal elders recalled legends that digging the house of the blood prophet would invoke the curse conflict and collapse befalling the violator's land. This fear spread rapidly, amplified by regional media as a mystical warning in unstable times. On an international scale, the issue became a cultural and political power struggle. Jordan views Petra as a national symbol while heavily relying on tourism. Discovering a tomb with a blood prophecy put the government in a bind. Publicizing it loudly could draw global attention, but also spur over-tourism, fragile heritage damage, and anger religious groups. Hiding it led to accusations of suppressing history and stalling science. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and some Gulf states watched closely. The prophecy of doom for civilizations based on desert and trade inadvertently evoked their own oil-dependent prosperity. Many regional scholars saw it as a dangerous metaphor that could be politicized for attacks. In the West, some environmental and economic scholars even used the find to warn about resource-dependent economies' fragility. No less fierce was the scientific debate. Some experts, like archaeologist Piers Paul Kriesman, argued calling it a blood prophecy was overhyped. The inscription isn't fully decoded, the red mixture unconfirmed as human blood, and might 14C dating in desert settings often inaccurate due to contamination. They warned against media leading the public with unverified hypotheses. Conversely, a group of young researchers from Europe and Jordan countered that the find is a unique archaeological milestone, questions notwithstanding, and data should be opened for global scientific collaboration in decoding. UNESCO got dragged into the vortex too. The organization stressed Petra as a World Heritage Site, requiring all excavations to uphold non-damaging principles and respect local culture. UNESCO urged Jordan for more transparency in research processes while recommending non-invasive survey tech to avoid harming sensitive areas. Amid these tensions, Western media didn't miss the chance. Some YouTube channels, podcasts, and popular science magazines rushed articles and videos with clickbait titles, Blood Prophecy in Petra Doom Warning. For oil empires, Joe Rogan and other prominent figures discussed the find on podcasts, asking should we keep opening sacred tombs to satisfy curiosity. The outcome: Petra became the intersection of three opposing forces: science craving discovery, religion seeking to protect the sacred, and politics striving to control the narrative. This controversy isn't just about a few ancient lines, but reflects a deeper question: is humanity wise enough to unearth the past without harming its own present? As the dust from the 2024 excavation settles, the biggest question is no longer who the tomb belongs to, or if that red mixture is human blood. What troubles the world is the message those Nabataean priests seem to have left before their civilization vanished. They once dominated desert trade routes, wealthy from spices, controlling water and oases. But then paths shifted, climates harshed, the empire crumbled, leaving Petra as a ghostly remnant. Today, the Middle East lives off another resource: oil. The prosperity of desert nations remains tied to trade and resource control. The blood warning, whether religious ritual or true prophecy, echoes from the past. Every empire founding itself on the desert, and perishable wealth can collapse when resources deplete or conflicts erupt. This discovery also raises questions about how we mine the past. The thirst for knowledge and tech progress can unlock ancient secrets, but at what cost? Are we repeating mistakes by disregarding the sanctity of lost civilizations? Petra now isn't just tourist ruins, It's a mirror to the present, in a world shifting from religion, politics, and resource crises. The blood prophecy, real or symbolic, is a reminder: listen to the past before it becomes our own fate.